The silver ship floated above Earth's atmosphere, almost invisible against the backdrop of the sunlit planet. Its hull shimmered in colors no human eye could naturally see, bending light in strange and impossible ways. Lyra Kale stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, arms crossed, watching it descend. She had been expecting them, but the presence of alien cadets still made her pulse quicken. She had dealt with extraterrestrial beings before, but these were young, inexperienced, and eager. Eager in a way that could be dangerous if underestimated. The aliens were curious about humanity, yet fearful, or at least that was how they presented themselves. Lyra had studied their reports and heard their whispers. Earth was considered dangerous, a primitive planet with a species capable of unpredictable destruction. The cadets wanted proof. They claimed evidence that humans could survive, adapt, and fight back when cornered. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. Humans were indeed resilient, but it wasn't the kind of proof they expected. The docking bay doors opened with a hiss, revealing the interior of the ship. It was sleek, sterile, and impossibly efficient. Lyra stepped forward as the cadets disembarked. Their forms were humanoid but alien. Elongated limbs, translucent skin, and eyes like liquid silver that reflected light unnaturally. They moved with precise, deliberate gestures, every motion calculated to observe without seeming intrusive. Lyra's heart beat a little faster. She was not afraid of them, fear would be counterproductive, but the cadets were not here to negotiate. They were here to judge. "Welcome to the station," she said, her voice steady. "I'm Lyra Kale." The lead cadet stepped forward. Its voice was melodic, almost musical, yet impossible for her ears to fully comprehend. "We have come to determine if your species is a threat," it said. "Reports claim your planet is violent, unpredictable. We must know the truth before we present Earth to the Academy as a potential danger." Lyra blinked, then inclined her head. "And you believe the Academy's report isn't enough?" The cadet's silver eyes glimmered. "Reports are incomplete. We seek confirmation." Lyra suppressed a laugh. She had heard the rumors about her species, stories of violent humans, merciless in war, unstoppable in survival. But the cadets' perception of humanity was limited to statistics, legends, and half-truths. They could not imagine the reality, a species that thrived not because of strength or technology alone, but because of willpower, resilience, and the refusal to surrender. She gestured toward her research module. "If you want proof, come with me. I have records you won't find in your academy." The cadets exchanged glances, silent communication through subtle gestures. They nodded. Lyra led them through the narrow corridors of the station. Their footsteps were quiet, precise, like dancers in a practiced routine. She noticed their curiosity. Despite their stoic appearances, they watched her every move. Every detail of her human habits seemed to fascinate them. The way she adjusted her sleeve, the small exhale of breath as she checked the instruments, the faint warmth in her eyes. Once inside the research module, Lyra activated the main console. The walls illuminated with holographic screens displaying maps, star charts, and mission logs. "You want proof?" she asked, leaning over the console. "I have first-hand accounts from the front lines of human resilience." The lead cadet's silver eyes narrowed slightly. "Front lines?" Lyra nodded. "Beyond Earth, humans have colonies on distant planets, some thriving, some barely surviving. Every one of them faced disasters that would have wiped out less stubborn species. And yet we endured, we adapted." She tapped the console, bringing up a series of files labeled Human Colony Reports. Images flickered to life. Landscapes of scorched planets, ruins of collapsed habitats, and survivors working tirelessly to rebuild. The cadets' eyes widened. The alien concept of survival seemed foreign to them. They had evolved in environments where adaptation was engineered, not fought for. Lyra's voice grew firmer. "Here is the colony of Gira 9, a mining settlement destroyed by a meteor storm. Every automated system failed. Power grids collapsed. Resources were scarce. The colonists, they survived, not because of luck, but because of ingenuity, cooperation, and sheer will." The cadets leaned closer. Their movements were hesitant now, almost cautious. "Survival," one of them whispered. "Under these conditions, you persisted?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, and that's not the worst of it. Here is the colony of Vortex Prime. An unknown pathogen wiped out 70% of the population in weeks. Supplies ran out. Communications failed, yet the survivors improvised." They learned the pathogen's behavior, adapted their immune systems, and fought back until the planet was stable again. The cadets remained silent, absorbing each story. Lyra felt a surge of pride. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, but here was her chance to show the truth. You see, humans do not merely survive because the odds are favorable. We survive because we refuse not to, because we fight even when hope seems impossible, because we are relentless. One cadet tilted its head, silver eyes reflecting the holographic images. Your species, you risk everything without hesitation. Without hesitation, you persist, even against forces beyond comprehension. Lyra smiled. Exactly. And that is why you won't find complete proof in your academy's data. You can measure firepower, population, and technology. You can list conflicts and casualties, but you cannot measure determination. Resolve, the unbroken will of a species that refuses to disappear. She paused, then accessed a classified file, her Homeworld report. This was personal, almost sacred. It contained logs from missions no human was supposed to share, records of the most extreme survival scenarios she had witnessed. She hesitated for a moment, then tapped it open. The first entry appeared, a human colony stranded on the frozen wastelands of Epsilon 4. Temperatures plummeted below survivable limits, storms raged for months, and equipment failed one by one. Out of 500 settlers, only 112 survived. Yet those who remained rebuilt shelters, improvised heating, and scavenged resources with ingenuity no alien science could predict. The cadets gasped, or, at least, the closest approximation of a gasp in their alien physiology. They survived?" the lead cadet asked. Lyra nodded. Yes, and they didn't just survive. They thrived, eventually returning the colony to functionality. Humans are not predictable. We do not follow the calculated odds. We defy them. Another screen flickered to life, showing the planet Corrales 3. A human research outpost faced attacks from a hostile alien species far superior in numbers and technology. Communication with Earth was lost. Supplies dwindled. Yet the outpost's leader rallied the team, used improvised weapons, and orchestrated defenses that drove back the attackers long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The cadets' movement slowed. They had expected stories of primitive violence, of human unpredictability in a negative sense. Instead, they saw courage, ingenuity, and adaptability beyond their comprehension. Lyra continued, her voice steady but charged with emotion. Humans are dangerous not because we are inherently violent, but because we refuse to be defeated. When cornered, we innovate. When outnumbered, we cooperate. When abandoned, we endure. And every time, we rise stronger than before. One cadet stepped closer, almost reverently. We have studied countless species, it said. We thought we understood survival, but your species, you elevate it to an art form. Lyra allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. That is the proof you seek. Not destruction, not war statistics, not death tolls. That is only a fraction of who we are. The real danger from your perspective is that humanity cannot be controlled, predicted, or destroyed. We endure, we adapt, we fight, and we never ever give up. For a moment, silence filled the room. The cadets absorbed everything, their alien minds struggling to process the human concept of relentless survival. Then one of them spoke quietly, almost as if confessing. Your species, you are extraordinary. Lyra laughed softly, shaking her head. We're not extraordinary. We're human, that's all. But she knew better. She had seen it firsthand, humans surviving the impossible, adapting when everything else failed, creating solutions where none seemed possible. That unbreakable will was the essence of humanity, and it was something no alien report could ever fully capture. As the cadets continued to watch the reports, Lyra felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She had not argued, threatened, or tried to convince them with words alone. She had shown them the truth, and the truth was undeniable. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The cadets had come seeking evidence of danger. Instead, they had found a species defined not by its weapons, but by its resolve. And for the first time, they hesitated. They realized that Earth, with all its chaos, conflict, and unpredictability, was not a threat because of its destructive power. It was a threat because humanity refused to die quietly. Lyra closed the Homeworld report, her eyes meeting the cadets. So do you still need more proof? She asked. The lead cadet shook its head slowly, silver eyes shining. No, this is more than proof. This is understanding. We underestimated your species. We were wrong. Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Humanity had been doubted, feared, and misunderstood for centuries. Yet here in the quiet observation deck of a distant station, she had shown them the truth. Humans were survivors, innovators, fighters, and perhaps the most dangerous thing of all, unstoppable. She stepped back, letting the cadets absorb the revelation fully. Outside the window, Earth rotated slowly, blue oceans and green continents shimmering in the sunlight. Below them lay a world that had endured wars, plagues, and disasters of unimaginable scale. And yet it persisted because of the species that called it home. Lyra Kale smiled faintly. In that moment, she knew the cadets would carry this understanding back to their academy. Humans had not just survived. They had triumphed in ways no alien intelligence could fully measure. And in doing so, she had delivered the most convincing proof of all. Humanity was indeed dangerous, but not in the way anyone had expected. The cadets sat in silence, absorbing the stories Lyra had shared. They had come expecting to witness humanity's capacity for destruction, yet they had found something far stranger and more unsettling. Humans who refused to die, who adapted against impossible odds, who fought not out of hatred, but out of sheer will. Their minds, trained to calculate threats logically, struggled with this kind of unpredictable force. Lyra studied them carefully. "You've seen reports," she said. "Now you need to see humans in action. Theory is not enough. Observation is what convinces even the most skeptical." The cadets exchanged hesitant glances. "Observation," the lead one repeated. "You mean live testing?" Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Not testing exactly, experience, immersion." Humans reveal their true nature not under pressure alone, but when confronted with moral and practical dilemmas. That is when our strength becomes evident. She led them to a separate deck filled with simulation chambers. These were small but highly detailed environments that replicated Earth scenarios. Some were disaster zones, some urban crises, some remote wilderness areas. Each was designed to challenge survival, cooperation, and ingenuity, the very essence of human adaptability. Lyra tapped a panel and the first chamber lit up. A holographic city street appeared, buildings half collapsed, fires smoldering, sirens echoing faintly. "You will watch humans navigate this scenario," she explained. "A natural disaster, earthquake aftermath, civilians trapped. Resources limited, time is critical, watch how they respond." Within moments, holographic figures moved through the chaos. Teams of human rescuers coordinated, improvising tools from broken debris. One woman hoisted a steel beam using only ropes and sheer leverage. Another guided a trapped child to safety, diverting falling rubble with quick, precise actions. The cadets watched, captivated. Their silver eyes reflected the scene, their minds struggling to reconcile what they saw with their preconceptions. "They adapt," one whispered. "Not only adapt, but improvise beyond expectation." Lyra nodded. "Humans rarely rely on protocols alone. We use instinct, intuition, and experience. We combine reason with risk. That is what allows us to survive and thrive." The lead cadet tilted its head, scanning the simulation carefully. "And there is no panic, no chaos despite the danger?" Lyra shook her head. "Panic exists, yes, fear exists, but humans have something unique. We convert fear into focus. We act when others would freeze. We innovate when systems fail. We survive when everything suggests we should not." The next chamber activated. This time, the setting was a remote jungle on an alien-adjacent planet where humans had settled years ago. A sudden storm tore through the settlement, flooding paths, knocking down shelters, and cutting off communications. Holographic settlers scrambled to protect resources, repair machinery, and organize evacuation routes. The cadets leaned closer. "They coordinate spontaneously?" one asked. Lyra smiled. "Humans are social and cooperative when survival demands it. We adapt strategies on the fly, balancing individual initiative with team effort. Watch the engineer improvise a water pump from scavenged parts. Notice the medic create emergency triage out of nothing. Observe how leadership emerges not by hierarchy, but necessity." The holographic engineer's hands moved quickly, connecting salvaged tubing and pressure valves. Water began flowing into the settlement's storage tanks. The medic guided groups of injured settlers, prioritizing who needed immediate attention. Nearby, a teenager led younger children to shelter, his actions unprompted but instinctively necessary. The cadets whispered among themselves. We calculated probabilities, one said. We predicted outcomes, but humans exceed expectations continuously. Lyra led them to the next chamber. Here, the challenge was even more complex. A small research team trapped in an abandoned asteroid mining facility. A sudden gas leak, unstable floors, and limited oxygen forced the crew to make life-or-death decisions. The cadets watched in awe as the humans responded. They assessed the situation, constructed makeshift ventilation, and navigated the facility with precision despite danger. When one path collapsed, another leader quickly devised a new route. Every failure became an opportunity, every obstacle a challenge to overcome rather than a reason to give up. The lead cadet tilted its head slowly. This is instinct, yes, adaptation without predictability. Lyra nodded. Exactly. You cannot predict humans with certainty. We are resilient, yes, but our greatest strength is our ability to combine knowledge, intuition, and willpower in real time. That combination is unusual among species. The cadets continued to observe the simulations for hours. In each scenario, humans demonstrated ingenuity, courage, and ethical complexity. They rescued strangers, saved lives at personal risk, and made choices that defied simple logic. Every outcome confirmed Lyra's point. Humans were unpredictable, not chaotic, and their unpredictability made them inherently dangerous in the eyes of those who assumed control was possible. Finally, Lyra accessed a personal report from her own missions. This file contained moments she had lived, extreme situations where humans faced annihilation and responded with defiance rather than despair. She projected the first entry: a colony on a desert planet, cut off from supply lines, sandstorms tearing apart structures daily. A small team of humans survived by creating water filtration from discarded machinery, growing food in makeshift hydroponics, and defending themselves against native predators with improvised tools. The cadets watched intently. They risk everything, one said. Not for conquest, not for territory, but for survival for each other. Lyra nodded. Humans value life differently. We are capable of destruction, yes, but our resilience, our determination to endure is what makes us extraordinary. You cannot calculate it. You cannot contain it. You can only witness it. Next, Lyra projected a scenario from the early days of humanity's first interstellar expansion. A research ship had crashed on an uninhabitable moon. Supplies were almost gone, communications dead. The crew faced freezing temperatures and radiation leaks. Within days, they created shelters from debris, generated heat through innovative engineering, and devised a system to recycle every possible resource. Despite death looming, they persevered. The cadets leaned closer, their silver eyes reflecting both astonishment and confusion. How is this sustainable? Their odds should have failed. Lyra smiled. That's the point. Humans defy odds. We adapt when failure is certain. We innovate when hope is gone. And we survive when everything suggests death. That unpredictability is what makes Earth dangerous. Hours passed as Lyra shared more reports. Colony disasters, space missions gone wrong, cities ravaged by natural disasters. Every example revealed the same truth. Humans were unbreakable in ways the cadets had not imagined. Finally, Lyra led the cadets to the last chamber, a simulation of Earth itself under a global catastrophe. Volcanoes erupting, oceans flooding, earthquakes tearing apart cities. Humans moved through the chaos, rescuing, rebuilding, and creating solutions amidst destruction. Civilians improvised communication networks, engineers rebuilt damaged infrastructure, and leaders emerged not by rank, but by necessity. The cadets watched in stunned silence. They had come expecting danger from weapons, from aggression, from raw violence. Instead, they witnessed danger from a quality no alien could engineer: humanity's unyielding will to survive, adapt, and thrive. The lead cadet finally spoke, voice softer than before. We believed humans were primitive, unpredictable in ways that caused harm, but what we see is different. Your species is extraordinary. You face the impossible and persist. You innovate when failure seems certain. You endure when hope is gone. You are unstoppable. Lyra leaned back, arms crossed, feeling satisfaction ripple through her. Unstoppable, yes, but more importantly, humans are alive in ways many species are not. We are flawed, chaotic, emotional, and irrational, but that makes us resilient. That makes us resourceful. That makes us dangerous, not for conquest, but because you cannot predict, control, or break us. One of the younger cadets finally asked, almost hesitantly, "Will this understanding change how the Academy views Earth?" Lyra's smile widened. "It should. But understanding is only the first step. Humanity cannot be fully comprehended, only respected. You may catalog our achievements, document our failures, and report our numbers. But the essence of humans, our spirit, our will, our persistence, cannot be quantified." The cadets were quiet, reflecting on everything they had seen. Lyra allowed them the silence, knowing the lesson had been delivered. Hours of observation, simulations, and real stories had conveyed more than any argument or statistic could. Humans were dangerous, yes, but not because of weapons, aggression, or numbers. Humans were dangerous because they refused to give up. The orbital station grew quiet as the cadets left the simulation chamber, their minds processing what they had witnessed. Lyra watched them go, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. Humanity had not just survived the impossible in simulations, they had survived it in reality. The cadets now carried the truth with them. Earth was home to a species that could not be underestimated, controlled, or predicted. Lyra returned to the observation deck, staring out at the blue planet spinning below. Humanity had faced wars, plagues, disasters, and cosmic threats beyond imagination. And yet the species endured, adapted, and thrived. Earth was more than just a planet. It was proof of the resilience, ingenuity, and unbreakable spirit of humans. She whispered to herself, a quiet affirmation that carried the weight of centuries of survival. "This is why we endure. This is why humans are unstoppable." Outside, the cadets' ship glimmered against the sunlit horizon, carrying their newfound understanding to the Academy. They had come to prove Earth was dangerous, but the lesson they took home was deeper, harder to quantify. Humanity's danger was not in aggression, but in spirit, a spirit that refused to yield. Lyra Kale allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had won again without firing a single shot. Their proof was in persistence, ingenuity, and the relentless refusal to surrender. And that was more convincing than any weapon, strategy, or threat the cadets could imagine. The cadets' ship left orbit quietly, gliding through the blackness of space with its silver hull gleaming under distant stars. Inside, the atmosphere was tense yet curious. They had returned from Lyra's simulations with a new understanding of humans, a species unpredictable, resilient, and unstoppable in ways that defied logic. But understanding was not the same as experiencing it firsthand. That lesson would come soon. Lyra watched the cadets from the observation deck, noting their unease. She had received reports that the Academy wanted them to test Earth's capabilities, to see if the dangerous species could withstand challenges in controlled scenarios. It was a delicate task. The cadets were not malicious, only inquisitive. But humans, as always, had a way of turning tests into triumphs. The first test was simple in theory, a remote research station orbiting a small asteroid. The station had been abandoned for years, its systems intentionally compromised, leaving the cadets to assess whether humans could survive under simulated failure. Lyra monitored the approach, noting the subtle changes in the cadets' behavior. Their confidence was tempered by the knowledge they now carried. Earthlings were more resourceful than they expected. When the human team arrived, led by Commander Jalen Reeves, the station looked worse than expected. Power flickered in the corridors, life support systems were unstable, and communication arrays were offline. The cadets observed silently, their eyes following every move. "Check the oxygen levels," Jalen ordered. His voice was calm but firm, a tone that conveyed authority without fear. A young technician ran diagnostic checks and reported numbers that would have terrified a less experienced crew. Oxygen reserves were critically low. Reactor cores were unstable. Structural supports were failing. The odds were grim. Lyra leaned slightly forward. "Watch carefully. Humans thrive where others fail. Observe how they adapt." Jalen didn't hesitate. He immediately divided his team into 3 units, one to stabilize life support, one to assess structural integrity, and one to repair communications. The cadets watched, fascinated, as humans executed complex tasks with minimal discussion yet perfect coordination. There was no panic, only action, a controlled chaos that somehow worked. The engineer in charge of life support examined a damaged reactor. She quickly improvised a makeshift coolant system using spare piping, duct tape, and sheer ingenuity. A cadet whispered, Improvisation, beyond expectation. The structural team reinforced weak beams with spare metal panels and hydraulic jacks, stabilizing the station just enough to prevent collapse. The cadets noted the human tendency to assess, adapt, and act simultaneously, a multi-layered approach foreign to their analytical training. Meanwhile, the communications team scavenged old antennas, combining them with old relay circuits to establish a makeshift signal. Within hours, they had partially restored contact with orbiting command. The cadets' eyes widened. These humans were not merely surviving, they were solving impossible problems in real time. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. This is only the beginning. Humans are not predictable. They invent solutions where none exist. They persevere where others would surrender. The cadets observed as the team faced an unexpected challenge. A hull breach caused by micrometeoroid impact. Air rushed into the vacuum of space. Commander Jalen didn't hesitate. He grabbed a portable hull patch and led the repair himself, instructing the team in precise steps to seal the breach. One cadet whispered, "They lead by example, not command." Hours passed. Systems were stabilized. Oxygen levels normalized. Communications restored. The station was operational again. The cadets were visibly impressed, their earlier assumptions shattered. Lyra introduced the second test, a human settlement on a harsh desert planet far beyond Earth. The cadets were to observe without interference as humans dealt with environmental extremes. When the ship arrived, dust storms raged across the settlement, sand scouring the metal structures and solar panels. Water reserves were limited. Temperatures soared by day and plummeted at night. The settlement leader, Mara Denel, guided her people through daily survival routines. Humans harvested water from underground reservoirs, improvised shade shelters from salvaged materials, and created irrigation systems to grow essential crops. Every task required creativity and risk management. One cadet whispered, "How do they endure such extremes?" Lyra replied, "Because humans do not view the environment as an obstacle. We view it as a challenge, one we will overcome if given time and resourcefulness." A sudden sandstorm destroyed part of the main habitat. Mara immediately organized repair teams, distributing tasks efficiently. She encouraged her people, assessed the damage, and improvised solutions using minimal resources. The cadets were astonished. Their analytical minds struggled to compute how humans could respond so effectively under unpredictable conditions. That evening, Lyra guided the cadets to observe the human team's problem-solving in the field. A sand filter had collapsed, contaminating water supplies. A team of engineers used discarded tubing and pressurized containers to construct an emergency filtration system. A cadet whispered, "This is instinctual yet calculated." Lyra nodded. Humans combine instinct with intellect. That combination cannot be modeled by probability alone. It defies prediction. That is our strength. The third test pushed the cadets further. A first contact mission gone wrong on a neutral alien planet. Humans were to negotiate a trade agreement with a technologically superior species known for aggression and distrust. The cadets expected conflict, perhaps failure. Commander Jalen and his diplomatic team approached cautiously. The alien representatives tested them with cryptic questions and subtle threats. Humans responded calmly, negotiating with logic, empathy, and cultural awareness. When one alien attempted deception, the humans identified it through observation and subtle behavioral cues. They adjusted their strategy on the fly, earning cautious respect from the aliens. The cadets watched, astonished. They had expected humans to be violent or reckless under pressure. Instead, humans used intelligence, morality, and adaptability to navigate impossible social scenarios. One whispered, "Their danger is unpredictability combined with morality." Lyra smiled faintly. "Exactly. Humans are dangerous because you cannot anticipate every choice we make. We think, feel, improvise, and act simultaneously. And when the stakes are survival, we exceed expectation every time." The final scenario tested teamwork under life-or-death conditions. A mining colony faced collapse as structural supports failed and toxic gas leaked into tunnels. Humans immediately coordinated rescue operations, prioritizing lives over profit. Some risked their own safety to save colleagues. Others improvised ventilation, reinforced beams, and stabilized the environment. A cadet finally asked aloud, "How can they be both reckless and calculated?" Lyra answered, "They are neither. Humans are adaptable. We balance risk with necessity. We lead, follow, innovate, and sacrifice all at once. That is why no single factor predicts our behavior accurately." Hours turned into days. Each scenario confirmed what Lyra had already shown. Humans were resilient, resourceful, and morally complex. Every cadet witnessed problem-solving, ingenuity, and courage in forms that defied alien analysis. The lead cadet finally addressed Lyra. "We underestimated your species. Our reports suggested unpredictability. What we have witnessed surpasses comprehension." "Humans are extraordinary," Lyra nodded. "Extraordinary is the wrong word. We are human, that's all, but humans endure, humans adapt, humans survive, and that is more than enough." The cadets processed the final test quietly, their minds filled with contradictory emotions: respect, awe, and a lingering unease at how unpredictable humans truly were. Earthlings were not dangerous because of weapons or numbers, they realized. They were dangerous because of spirit, the relentless refusal to give up, the ability to innovate under pressure, and the courage to face impossible odds. Lyra stood at the observation deck, watching them leave the final test chamber. Her chest swelled with pride. Humanity had not just survived simulations. It had triumphed in ways the cadets could not quantify. She knew the cadets would carry these lessons to their academy. Earthlings could not be controlled, predicted, or underestimated. Outside, the planet below rotated slowly, oceans glinting under distant suns. Earth was more than a homeworld. It was proof of human ingenuity, courage, and spirit. And the cadets, now witnesses to the truth, would forever remember that lesson. Humanity could not be defeated by circumstance, odds, or logic alone. Lyra whispered to herself, "This is why we endure. This is why humans are unstoppable." The cadets' ship hummed softly as it approached a distant human colony on the edge of known space. The mission was simple in theory: observe, document, and report. Yet Lyra knew this final scenario would challenge the cadets in ways they had not anticipated. Humans were unpredictable in ordinary circumstances, but under extreme pressure, they became something extraordinary, capable of heroism, ingenuity, and determination that defied expectation. As the ship docked above the colony, Lyra watched the cadets' reactions. Their silver eyes were wide with anticipation and unease. They had witnessed simulations, controlled disasters, and diplomatic crises, but this was real. The humans on the planet were alive, unpredictable, and unaware that they were being observed. The colony sprawled across a rocky plateau, with settlements clustered around natural springs. Terraforming equipment hummed quietly, and small ships moved between landing pads. At first glance, it seemed calm, almost peaceful. But sensors indicated instability. The colony's main power grid was failing, communications were intermittent, and a localized storm system threatened to escalate into a deadly tempest. Lyra activated a live feed, projecting the colony's situation to the cadets. "Observe carefully," she said. "These humans face real danger. Notice how they respond not in theory but in practice." The lead cadet's eyes narrowed. "We have studied Earth's records. We have witnessed simulations. Yet this is different. They are alive. They are real." The first crisis struck within hours. A massive storm tore across the plateau, lightning striking the colony's energy pylons, sending sparks and flames into the air. Settlers scrambled to secure equipment, evacuate personnel, and contain fires. Lyra pointed to a small group racing toward the damaged pylons. "Watch them improvise. Watch how they coordinate without hesitation." The cadets observed as the group constructed a makeshift system using spare cables and hydraulic lifts to reroute power. One of the settlers climbed the unstable pylon, manually connecting lines to stabilize the grid. Sparks flew dangerously close to the figure, yet they moved with confidence, instinct, and courage. A cadet whispered, "They risk themselves for others." Lyra nodded. "Humans value life beyond self-preservation. That is why we endure. That is why we survive. That is why we are unpredictable." The storm worsened, tearing through the outer settlements. Another crisis emerged. The terraforming machinery was damaged, threatening to poison the water supply. Mara Denel, the colony leader, organized teams to repair valves, filter out toxins, and ensure safe water distribution. She delegated responsibilities with efficiency and intuition, simultaneously calming panicked settlers. One cadet muttered, "Their leadership, it is adaptive, not rigid. It emerges from necessity, not command." Lyra smiled. Exactly, hierarchy alone does not dictate action. Humans respond to challenges by combining experience, observation, and courage. Leadership emerges where it is needed, often from those who are most willing to act. As the storm reached its peak, another threat appeared. A landslide triggered by heavy rains blocked the main access route to the settlement. Supplies were trapped, and evacuation seemed impossible. Yet humans did not panic. Jalen Reeves led a team to assess alternative routes, using climbing gear, ropes, and improvised sleds to move critical supplies. Others dug temporary channels to divert water, preventing further collapse. The cadets watched in awe. "They innovate under pressure," one whispered. "Every obstacle is met with action, not despair," Lyra nodded. "That is what you must understand. Humans do not surrender to circumstances. We assess, adapt, and act. That is why we endure where others would fail." Hours turned into a tense night as the storm continued. Yet through every disaster, humans persisted. The cadets observed moments of heroism. A young medic carried injured settlers through flooded streets, risking electrocution. An engineer repaired vital machinery while standing in waist-deep water. A child guided lost animals to safety under guidance from older settlers. The cadets were silent, processing the unfolding events. Their analytical minds struggled to quantify the combination of courage, ingenuity, and adaptability before them. They had expected danger in weapons, aggression, or calculated skill. Instead, they witnessed something far more formidable, the unyielding human spirit. As the storm subsided, the colony faced yet another crisis. An alien species, previously uncontacted, approached the settlement. Their intentions were unclear, but initial scans suggested hostility. The humans had no time to prepare defenses, yet they did not falter. Jalen Reeves led a negotiation team, combining rapid analysis with empathy, using observation of the aliens' behavior to anticipate movements and prevent unnecessary conflict. Lyra gestured to the cadets. "Observe closely. Humans are dangerous not only in survival but in diplomacy. We think, we adapt, we empathize. That is why Earth is never predictable." The aliens tested them, probing for weakness. Yet humans countered with ingenuity. Automated barriers crafted from salvaged materials, communication attempts through improvised translators, and coordinated defensive positioning without triggering hostility. Every move was calculated, yet flexible, a dynamic balance of risk and necessity. One cadet whispered, "They negotiate while preparing for battle, and they do not panic." Lyra nodded. "Panic is human, yes, fear exists, but we convert it into action, strategy, and innovation. That is what separates us. That is why we endure even when the odds are impossible." The encounter ended without violence. The alien species withdrew, partly confused and partly impressed by the humans' combination of courage, strategy, and morality. The cadets stared, stunned. Humanity had faced threat after threat and emerged not only intact but stronger, more organized, and more resilient than expected. Lyra turned to the cadets. "You have seen the truth now. Humans are unpredictable because we think, feel, and act simultaneously. We innovate when resources fail, lead when necessary, and protect life even at personal risk. We survive because we refuse to surrender." The lead cadet's voice was almost reverent. "We came seeking proof of danger. We expected violence, aggression, destruction. Instead, we witnessed ingenuity, morality, courage, and endurance beyond calculation. Your species is extraordinary." Lyra shook her head. "Extraordinary is not the right word. Humans are human. We are flawed, emotional, chaotic, but that is exactly why we endure. That is why we are dangerous." Another cadet asked, "Will the Academy accept this? Will they understand what we have seen?" Lyra's eyes glinted with quiet pride. "Understanding is not guaranteed, respect is earned. But you carry proof that cannot be ignored. Humans adapt, innovate, and persist in ways no species can predict. That is the ultimate danger or the ultimate strength, depending on how you view it." As the cadets prepared to leave the colony, the final lesson emerged organically. A small group of settlers, still exhausted from the storm and alien encounter, encountered a natural geyser eruption that blocked their path back to the settlement. Rather than panic, they improvised a pulley system from ropes and debris, creating a safe passage. Children and elders were guided through first, while adults followed, coordinating each movement with calm precision. The cadets observed silently, finally understanding. Humans were not only survivors in extreme conditions, but teachers of resilience, ingenuity, and moral courage. Every action, from improvisation to leadership, reflected an unyielding determination that could not be predicted, quantified, or controlled. Lyra stepped back as the cadets' ship lifted off. "Remember this," she said softly. "You have observed danger, yes, but the danger of humanity is not weapons, numbers, or aggression. It is spirit. It is will. It is the refusal to surrender to impossibility." The lead cadet's voice carried a new respect, tinged with awe. "We underestimated your species. Our calculations failed. Earth is dangerous, but not in the way we expected. It is dangerous because humans cannot be broken." Lyra smiled faintly. "Exactly. And that is why humanity endures." As the ship departed, the cadets reflected on everything they had seen. Earth was more than a planet. It was a testament to resilience, creativity, courage, and morality. Humanity's unbreakable spirit had turned every challenge into opportunity, every disaster into triumph, and every threat into a lesson in adaptation. Lyra watched from the observation deck as the stars swallowed the ship. The humans on the colony below resumed their lives, repairing damage, helping each other, and innovating solutions for the next challenge. They did not know they were being observed, yet they acted in the only way humans could, with determination, ingenuity, and an unshakable will to endure. She whispered, "This is why humans are unstoppable. This is why Earth cannot be conquered. This is why we survive when others fail." The cadets' reports would later shock the Academy. Their initial mission had been to confirm a threat, to document danger. Instead, they returned with evidence that humans were a force of nature, not through aggression or conquest, but through spirit, resilience, and moral courage that could not be predicted or contained. Lyra Kale allowed herself a quiet moment of satisfaction. Humanity had proven itself once again, not with weapons, not with conquest, but with ingenuity, courage, and the relentless refusal to surrender. The cadets had arrived with doubts and fears, and they departed with understanding, respect, and awe. Outside, the human colony continued to thrive, adapting to each challenge with a mix of intellect, courage, and heart. Storms would come, threats would arrive, disasters would strike, but humans would endure. They always had, and they always would. Lyra smiled. Humanity had shown the galaxy, in subtle, undeniable ways, why Earth was a force to be respected. And more importantly, why the human spirit could never be broken, never be contained, and never be truly predicted. And that, she knew, was the ultimate proof. Humanity, unstoppable, unyielding, and dangerous in the way only a truly alive species could be.